blueprints are Unreal Engine's way of allowing users or developers to create functionality of the game. So like it says here, the game mechanics, interactions, and all of that, instead of having to write traditional code, which in Unreal would usually be C++, the blueprints allow us to do that with a visual scripting system. So basically, it has a series of objects or blueprints that are available to you that you could pull out and manipulate with changing the inputs and the outputs for them, and having it then create your code without you having to know how to actually code. You just need to know what object or which one of these blueprints that you need to have. So these are just some of the blueprint types that you can get. I think they're kind of the main ones, but so events they're going to have like a red highlight up here that are blueprints, and these are events. And so these basically trigger when something happens. What I have here listed is begin play. So when you start playing the game, like when you hit that green button for play, this is going to happen. And so what it's going to do is, and you can see that it's always with red border here, and it has a little stop or square icon right there. And you'll notice that there is a white arrow, and so this line is something I added. You can see like here it has a little arrow with nothing in it. You can just click and drag this, and what this does is says that this event is now connected to this event, or this blueprint. Now this blueprint is, again, a common one that you'll probably use quite a bit in here, which is add sphere collision. And what that means is like, so the object or the asset or the actor that you have, if someone goes within the sphere that you design for this item, that it's going to do some kind of action. And so like this tells you like right at the beginning of the thing, you're going to have that connected, and then it has stuff that comes into it, and then stuff that goes out of it. And so you'll notice like these are functions. They're blue and green are the two types of functions that you'll have. And like the blue ones are kind of more like it's doing something. The green ones are more like it's getting a value. It's still a function, but it's not really manipulating or changing any of the values that are in it, from my understanding. I could be wrong on this, but that's what my understanding is. And so you notice it always has like on the left hand side is what you're getting input from, and on the right hand side is what output is going out of it. So that's kind of on both of them. See here, right? The left side says player index, and that 0 just means the current player. If you had multiple people, you'd get different options here. And then it returns a value, so it's getting the player character, and it's returning it to the next object. Just so you know, this is not doing anything. This is just, I wanted some visual aids to help explain this. And so that's what I just pulled out a couple ones. Then the last one over here is white blueprints that are branch nodes. And so like this one you can see is a for loop. So it's basically doing something. So if you don't know what a for loop is, it's basically a way to iterate through doing stuff multiple times. And so this tells you like the first index and the last index, and if you're going to be getting those from values or whatever, and then it's going to do something and output the information. And then there's also variables that you could add. So you could add setting variables and getting variable values as well. So that's the main buttons that you're going to get with blueprints. Just like most other things in Unreal and most applications, there's multiple ways to create a new blueprint. So I'm going to come up here and make our little browser, our content browser, bigger. And I'm going to scroll up here to my JG assets, and I'm going to right click in here and say create basic asset blueprint class. And so you can see here what it's going to do is create a new, it's going to get option to pick what kind of the parent class. So it's just saying what is it going to inherit its information from. And for the most part, we're going to be doing right now is using an actor, which is basically any asset or object in your thing is that spawned in your world or in your level. So that's what we're going to be creating. Again, you want to name these things nicely. So I'm going to call it BP for blueprint, and I'm going to call it cone so that we know it's the blueprint for the cone. And it created it, and now I can double click it to edit it, and it will pop up a window. And if you see, it looks very similar to the other window. You do still have your other window open that you just have to hit the minimize to see that, right? So I still have this window open, and I can come into my blueprint as well. And you'll see that we have a viewport here. And if I look over here, I have details. So I have information about any objects or whatever that I have in here. And I have different items that I can look at. And I have components here. So the two main things that you want to make sure you have in here is components and details. So if you don't have those, let me know and we could figure out what's going on. But so components is basically what you're going to be adding to this. So, and then details is how we're going to create events and do stuff for it. And then you have the construction script. This is a special script that we're not going to get into too much right now, but basically, from my understanding, it's what happens to the blueprint class is created or modified in the editor. So that'll be a feature we get into later on in the term. And then this last one, it automatically generates these. For the most part, you won't necessarily need the built-in ones that it calls depending upon what we're doing, but it starts with like bringing up some blueprints for you for just the event begin play, the actor begin overlap, and event tick. So right, begin play, that kind of makes sense with when you hit the little play button, anything that's connected to this is what's going to start running. The event actor begins overlap, so if you have a collision on any item, then if you get it connected to this, when the collision happens, it'll start enacting or doing that event. And then tick is something that it does every frame. So you kind of want to do this one rarely because that could take a lot of processing power to do something every frame. So if I wanted to, you could easily add a new option just by right-clicking, and you'll see that you get all of these are all the different things that you can add to a blueprint. So there is quite a bit of stuff. So it'll take a little bit for us to go through this and start working through them and figuring out what we're doing. And so that's right-clicking, and if we wanted to, we could also add components here. So if we want to add, and we're going to do our cone, and we could also add the collision. And so I'm just going to call it a sphere collision. So what we're going to do is just use this event overlap, and we're going to click on the arrow and right click it out, and we're just going to do a print string. And you'll see that it says hello world, and you see that it went from grayed out to bright red. That's just telling you that it's actually doing this now. And so hopefully when we have this, it is going to do the hello. So now when we're in here, right, what I need to do is right click this object and I'm going to replace it with the BB cone that I had created. And so now hopefully you can see that there's kind of that sphere around it and everything. And now when I play, and I'm going to come up here and go up, hopefully you'll see over here in the top left hand corner, it goes away, but you can see that I am putting hello up on the left hand corner. And it only lasts for 2 seconds. We can modify that so that it does a little bit longer by coming in our blueprint. If you look, if we do the down arrow and we get more information, you'll see that it's only lasting for 20 seconds or 2 seconds. So if we want it to be, let's make it 10 seconds so it's a little bigger. And we can then go back and play. Minimize this one. And so you want to look in the top left hand corner of the screen. When I do this, you can see now it says hello in the top left hand corner. And if I go back and forth over it, it gives me, and so that's telling me that I'm colliding with my cone that I wanted to right there. And again, you just escape to get out of it. So that's the very basics of creating one small blueprint on manipulating our screen.